The endless promise of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reform the education sector is yet to see the light of day. But if the reform is to be effective and end ASUU strikes and minimize brain drain in Nigeria, the four things must be included in the reform. In the first instance, the 2009 agreement must be implemented. An agreement reached in 2009 and signed by both government and ASUU leadership, but yet to see the light of day, yet to materialize since due in 2013. If only because as from that year, ASUU leadership, as from that year 2013, when the implementation was due, ASUU leadership started getting the fraudulent and academic allowance shared with the non-academic workers' unions to stall the implementation of the agreement. As from that year, 2013, ASUU leadership started ending every strike upon getting the fraudulent and academic allowance, from which ASUU leaders and the leaders of the non-academic unions become, and their, together with their cronies, become automatic or became automatic multimillionaire, therefore compromising the implementation of the 2009 agreement. In the second instance, or in the third instance, yes, I know that the end academic allowance is included in the 2009 agreement as it should be, so that ASUU members can be compensated for their extra time and extra work. But that is not what ASUU leadership has been claiming for government, but a lump sum of bribe agreed between government and ASUU leaders and shared lopsidedly to members, shared between ASUU and the non-academic unions, and the leaders of the unions, academic and non-academic, share the money lopsidedly to their members, making the leaders and their cronies become automatic multimillionaire. But the EAA included in the 2009 agreement is for individual worker that earns the end academic allowance. Non-academic unions have their own allowances they earn. In the third instance, with particular reference to ASUU, government must intervene in a situation where ASUU leadership in 2012 amended the union's constitution by the leadership alone and entitles the union to a percentage of each ASUU to 2% of each ASUU member's monthly salary monthly. and to increase or decrease the 2% as deemed fit by the leadership alone. So the union was hijacked by the leadership, reducing the union to an oligarchy rather than a democracy, because the ASUU congresses were excluded from the decision, from the amendment of the constitution. Government must make a law restricting workers' unions to fixing a minimal uniform subscription, membership subscription for workers' unions members. Because in ASUU, for instance, membership is equal for all members, and so the obligation should be equal from all members, from each member, while salary percentage is not equal of amount of money from every member. So that abnormality, pure dictatorship and extortion, should be addressed by government. That is particularly, all of these of course are relevant to minimizing brain drain. One cannot rule out brain drain altogether, but it can become minimized if ASUU leadership extortion is corrected, if not punished. As a matter of fact, government should punish the leadership. Government itself is said not to be faithful to remitting the money to the account of ASUU leadership, because it is no longer, the ASUU account is for ASUU leaders who set the extortion in motion and not accounting for anything, saying that anybody who is interested in what ASUU leadership is doing with money should go and ask for the records in ASUU secretariat. So to minimize strikes and brain drain, all this must be put into the reform. That is it. It's not just about 2009 agreement. The extortion of a percentage of each ASUU member's monthly salary must be corrected, if not punished. That is it. Then, in the fourth instance, ASUU leadership must be made, or Nigeria government must set out the limits of a workers' union as a workers' union. What are the expectations of a workers' union? What are the terms of reference? Where does excess begin and end, with particular reference to a workers' union? Because ASUU leadership, upon imposing extortion of a percentage of each ASUU member's monthly salary as a monthly membership subscription, started adding scholarship for indigent students. Is a workers' union supposed to be for philanthropy or philanthropic activities? Yeah, if at all it will happen, it will be upon the minimal uniform subscription set by the union, and then the excess after normal expenses of the union, eh, conforming to the legitimate activities of the union can be used for charity, but not to be taxing members for extraneous activities. So the government need to reform the laws guiding workers unions, because of the excesses of, if only because of the excesses of ASUU leadership. You see it, because part of the excesses is ASUU leadership arrogating to itself funding, equipping, and good running of the universities. ASUU is not the only stakeholder of Nigeria's universities. Other workers' unions are there, most of who have their children in the universities. The students themselves are stakeholders. Their parents are stakeholders. Nigerians in general who know that these institutions are for the benefit of their own children too, and overall good of Nigeria, can easily be carried along by ASUU, rather than ASUU leadership tying funding, equipping, and good running of the universities, placing this above the welfare of their members, thereby for a single strike asking for too many capital intensive things from government, things that no government will ever do in one fell swoop, thereby confusing the government and prolonging the strike. That is why ASUU strikes are prolonged, because ASUU leadership is not focused on its expected term of reference, welfare of its members. The purpose of a workers' union is to protect the rights and the entitlements of the members. The institution does not belong to ASUU. The Yoruba people say, "Kini yi, kini mi ni, ó yàtọ̀ sí kini yi, kini wa ni." That means this is my belonging. Is different from this is our belonging. A person cannot kill himself over what belongs to all. It has to be a common responsibility, because as I say, by putting funding, equipping, and good running of universities, ASUU leadership adds capital intensive programs to the legitimate demand for welfare of its members, as disoriented as saying that welfare of ASUU members is not the overarching priority of ASUU. And that is a union entitling, at least as from 2012, entitling itself to a percentage of each to 2% of each ASUU members' monthly salary monthly, and to increase or decrease the amount as deemed fit by the leadership, thereby increasing the 2% to 3% as from 2024. Yet saying that welfare of ASUU members is not the overarching priority of ASUU. So you can see that ASUU leadership derailed as from 2012 till date, and there's no better way to correct this that government coming out with a blueprint, going by international labor organization laws on what a workers union's responsibilities are, so that any union leadership going extraneous to derail the system, as ASUU leadership has been doing, and government is colluding, whether in the exploitation of ASUU members. As I keep saying, three forces. ASUU leadership itself, ASUU leaders themselves are the original sin of ASUU, from which other sins are deriving. The corruption of ASUU leaders, colluding with government to be getting fraudulent and academic allowance, and government supporting its extortion of a percentage of each workers' monthly salary monthly, and paying it to ASUU leaders. Because one of the demands now from government is remittance of the check-off dues of members into ASUU account, which it has come to light is the real reason ASUU leadership is bent on strike after getting the fraudulent and academic allowance. ASUU leadership is still pained that government is not faithful to remitting the fraud, the scam, the extortion to it. So if all these are not addressed, government will keep aiding and abetting extortion of ASUU members and the academic and non-academic workers in general, as in the case of the fraudulent and academic allowance, and leading to poor welfare of workers. And brilliant people who are sellable abroad are not attracted to the system, except those who are not opportune to relocate, or for whatever reason unwilling to relocate from Nigeria shores. So this is the issue. If government wants to do a reform, I don't know what government has in mind, but these 4 points must be included. Implement the 2009 agreement. Stop the fraudulent and academic allowance, and abide by what is in the 2009 agreement, specified in the 2009 agreement. Implement the end academic allowance as stipulated in the 2009 agreement. So, and then in the third instance, stop extortion of each ASUU member's monthly salary, is a percentage of each ASUU member's monthly salary monthly. Get ASUU leadership to fix a minimal uniform amount of money for monthly subscription, not salary percentage that is not equal for that, which amount of money is not equal from each member, while obligation to the union is while privilege of the union is equal for all members. What is a workers union doing with a percentage of each worker's monthly salary monthly? And government has been cooperating. Now that government is not cooperating, ASUU leadership is threatening strike. It's not threatening strike because of 2009 agreement. That's the truth. Because we have been weeping since 2013 till date that ASUU leadership should stop getting the fraudulent and academic allowance and focus on the 2009 agreement to no avail. Except now that government is refusing to or is reluctant to be remitting 3% of each ASUU member's monthly salary monthly, or even 2%, or even half a percent. What is a workers' union business with a percentage of each worker's monthly salary monthly in the name of a workers' union? And also that ASUU's term of workers' union's terms of reference must be defined in accordance with the International Labour Organization, so that if ASUU leaders are interested in a charity organization, they should go and form it and not disorient ASUU, distort the purpose of ASUU for their own selfish reasons as a justification for extortion of a percentage of each ASUU members' monthly salary monthly, because that's what they are doing. You see it, giving scholarship to indigent undergraduate students when ASUU members are going to banks to borrow money to fund the education of their children. That's the truth, That's the fact of the case. Most ASUU members are going to have to go a borrowing to attend to the education of their children, given the salary they are earning now. And besides, a workers' union is a workers' union. Any philanthropic minded person should be philanthropic in their own, in other ways, not in the name of ASUU. And it's not true that they are philanthropic. They are just looking for cover for the extortion of ASUU members. So define the expectations and limits of a workers' union so that there will be sanity in the system.